click and go live, and then I'll click the countdown. What's up, LinkedIn?
We're back.
I saw you write that on the side. What's up, LinkedIn?
You got to get people fired up, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Another rendition episode, whatever you want to call it. Tuesday Night Tech. Welcome everybody who might be listening or listening thereafter. What's going on, my big boy Zachy? What's going on?
Man, we took an impromptu break the week before last for last episode. Happy to be back. Pretty cool tool we've got tonight with the guys over at Mighty.
Sell Mighty.
Yes,
Mighty.ai. Yeah, all of a sudden, like I don't know how I got in touch with this guy, right? He just we got connected. I can't tell if he's a tech guy or he's a sales guy, but he just goes, "You got to check this thing out," and he sent it to me, right? Or he put it out to a couple of people on the community, right? And I was like, "All right, yeah, I'll check it out." And so the craziest thing was, I didn't even know what it was, and then all of a sudden, this little M, this little purple M, shows up on my screen, and I'm like, "Well, what is this?" Right? Let's click on this. And it's an AI tool that I started writing emails with or getting data with, and it was kind of pretty cool. And for a second though, there was a lot of purple on the screen, so we were like, why is this turning everything purple? But it wasn't even that was making that thing happen. So but we got that cleared up. But this Mighty tool is literally freaking mighty. Like, I think they'll kind of like a bunch of the AI tools that we're seeing. There's going to be this immersion of all these tools, right? And then you're going to see some of them kind of jump out. They're going to have these like little features that are going to just make them better than the next. Yeah. And they're going to get a bunch, they're going to get a lot of users. And then what's going to be nice, what's going to be interesting to see is the feedback, right? And the way they iterate. And, and what I think is going to happen personally is that the ones that really stand out are probably going to get bought by somebody else. The tech, it'll probably get bought. I'm sure a lot of them are sitting there rubbing their beards, thinking, man, I want to sell the shit out of this thing, to somebody at some point in my life. But I was excited to start using AI tools, and I still don't use probably enough, or I still probably don't use it as much as I should. Mm-hmm. I'm still, I want to say grinding it out, but like I feel confident in the emails that I'm writing and in the posts that I'm answering. I did see another cool tool, which I'm going to try to get on our show. It's called Evie AI, and it's a little different. It doesn't write emails, but it's a AI for LinkedIn posts, like commenting, basically. Okay. And it kind of like just helps you. Like, it helps write the comment.
Yeah.
so like it reads the comment before it and it writes the comment, for you. And it's like, like if you post something and you have 30, 40 things, like how are you going to possibly answer all of those and keep the algorithm going and what have you? And so this guy I know, Joe, he's not even in our industry. He's not even in the tech sales industry. He's actually in he's an Orthodox Jew, and he's kind of in the tech industry, but he was more of a LinkedIn marketing guy.
Okay.
And he doesn't know anybody here. You know what I mean? And so I want to bring him over because I think his tool is pretty cool, and he's not even somebody who was in tech sales, and he's built something. And so it's just interesting to see this connection of sales guys or kind of sales or marketing guys getting with a tech person and then creating something and then taking it to market. And that's kind of what these guys at Mighty did. So I connected with Prob. He's one of the co-founders, and then I think he invited his boy Tej to come on the show. So let's bring him in and get to know them and learn a little bit more about this crazy AI tool that we got going on. What's going on, guys?
Welcome to the show.
What's up, Mac? Zach, great to meet you guys again. Super pumped to be on here. And yeah, I'm glad that you got a chance to play with Mighty and found it interesting.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So welcome to the show. Welcome to Tuesday Night Tech. Typically what we like to do, and for those people who are watching who haven't ever been on the show, we do a little bit of a founder interview. So we want to get to know these guys, how they came up with the product, how they plan on continuing to grow it, and then ultimately what could we do to help them continue to grow it. And then after halftime, we'll dive into taking a look at the tool and maybe playing around and doing a little bit of a demo with it and seeing how it works. And then those of you who are sticking around out there might be here live, want to ask some questions, we'll open the floor to questions. And then it's the purple era. Is that what I missed that little chat, Tej? I apologize.
When you're talking about how you installed the extension and everything was purple, that happened last fall. And we call it
I didn't want to make it sound like it was you guys or a mistake. It was a bug, I'm sure. And every app has a bug.
Yeah.
Even SalesLoft has bugs that they don't even believe they have. I was once I literally worked with Sales Intel, right? Now you know how like you call up support in some places, right? And they go, you tell them about a problem that you're experiencing, and they go, "Oh, we haven't heard of that yet." I was like, well, they say we haven't heard of that, but let me see what I could do to help fix it. I go, well, why do you say that? Like that's like you insult me when you say, well, I haven't heard it. Like I'm making it up. You know what I mean? Like I'm not making it up. This is what's happening. This is the error I'm getting. You know what I mean? I'm not just making it up. And so why can't I be the first? Right? Why can't I be the first out of the 50,000 users you have? Why can't I be the first one to alert you to the problem? You think you guys are that good that you know what the problem is and before a user tells you? I guarantee that's not the case. I mean, some companies are like that. They got really good IT people that are monitoring everything, and they find they see it and they fix it before it actually gets registered by a user. But most of the time it's going to be registered by the user or by some user. And so Sales Intel had a problem. They had a glitch in their system. Sales Intel, this is a major corporation, a data source, and they said to me 3 times, we don't believe you. And then finally, they admitted that it was a global problem. Like I had problems with with this transfer, like exporting of contact data, like it would mess it up in the export. And it wasn't really that it was messed up. It was like one is sort of algorithmic oriented data, and the one is verified. And so they had a mix up in that kind of data. And they said it was 150,000 contacts that were messed up throughout their whole system. It wasn't just the contacts we were working, the 2,000 or 3,000 we were working. It was their like multiple users, multiple customers, right? But I was the first one that told them. Yeah. Anyways, so we want to know a little bit about you guys personally. Where you calling in from? How did you meet? How did you come up with it? Whoever wants to start, so go for it.
Yeah, Tej, you want me to start? I'll get going, and then
go for it.
I'll start with how we met, and then you can go with how we came across Mighty. So my name is Prab. I'm based out of Toronto. I've been in sales for a few years now, probably 4 or 5 years. And just like anyone else, I was in an outbound organization, spending a lot of time. When you're an outbound AE, like your job is like half BDR and half closing deals.
Yeah.
So a lot of my time was, emailing, calling, and all that good stuff. And, spending that time writing emails, I was like, God, like eventually, I don't know. Some people like it, but I eventually was like starting to get it. Like I had written like thousands of emails at this point, and I was like, oh man, like I'm still spending hours of my day, an hour, 2 hours a day writing these cold emails. And then ChatGPT came along. And I was like, wait, like before now, it was like there were tools that could personalize, and it was just crap. Like you couldn't actually use them. It wouldn't look close to anything that a human would have written. It'd be like, hey, notice you're the director of sales. This is what I'm selling. That was the personalization. But I think when AI came out, or when ChatGPT AI came out, we thought, okay, AI is maybe finally at that place where it can do stuff more than just look up what their job title is. Because when we do personalization, we're like looking at where they worked before, maybe where they went to college, what their company does, and finding something unique that ties into our product and using that to reach out. So that's kind of where we started experimenting. I called up Tej, and that's how we started working on this. But yeah, maybe Tej, you can.
Did you say, Tej, you could do this, right? You could build this for me, right?
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, Prab and I have kept in touch. I think we met in 2017 at a startup boot camp. Kept in touch, talking startups, talking business ideas here and there. But last December, he came to me with this idea, and obviously with the revolution of ChatGPT, I was on board as well. Like he mentioned, like we went through an ideation phase, we went through a background research stage, and going through different products already on the market, and realized like these are okay, but they're very limited. And ChatGPT was great at writing emails already at the time, but it had some limitations, like you can't as easily train it to your personal writing style. So that was a big obstacle that we wanted to overcome. And also that it was like very limited in its knowledge base. So it was only trained on publicly available data up to September 2021 at the time. It may be 2022 now, but very outdated. So we wanted to add a couple layers on top of GPT and OpenAI's existing functionality, which was, hey, you're a salesperson, you have these prospects you want to reach out to. So give us the name and the company of your prospect. Tell us what company you're from. And we're going to research your company. We're going to research your prospect company. We're going to check out the LinkedIn page for the person you're reaching out to. We're going to do a whole bunch of data research. We're going to gather points of interest. And then we're going to generate a sales email using, proven strategies that have been successful in this field. And that was like Prob's areas of expertise. And it's ChatGPT was good at writing just basic emails, but it didn't always knock down the points and the checklist basically of a strong sales email, a strong outreach email. So that's something we've been iterating on for the past few months, and I think we're at a pretty good stage now.
Awesome.
Quick. I'm sorry, Zach. You have a question?
What? Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, you were talking about like in the early stages when you first came to you, and you sort of like in the idea phase or ideation phase. Mm-hmm. What advice could you give to like another young or new entrepreneur getting into this who might be kind of struggling in that phase? Meaning, like maybe there's a little bit of those syndromes, like they don't believe this is right, or they second guess themselves. Like, what advice would you give to another founder in that phase? Like, were you ever at the point where you're like, fuck this, I'm not going to do this? Like, like those kinds of things. Like, I want to hear like what you were going through in that early.
Fortunately not. I think I was really excited with the movement of AI anyways, and I wanted to do something, and then Prab had this idea. And it's always one piece of advice I'll give is if you're a tech founder, it's always good to have a non-tech founder with you because of the diverse perspective you can get, and just working on something and then like and if there's two of you, you can like constantly push each other. And as far as like ideation and like imposter syndrome and things like that, that's gonna happen. That's always gonna happen, whether you're in a career or whether you're trying to be an entrepreneur. But Basically, my advice would just be to like keep going until you hit a brick wall. Even if you hit a brick wall, try to climb that wall first.
Yeah.
And if it's not scalable, then you can pivot. But my advice would not be to like quit anytime soon. Like if you have the capacity to keep going, you should definitely do that, especially in this age and era. Building something like this without leveraging AI and all of its power and like everything. It's not just our product, but it's a tool for us to help build the product as well. So building something like this out before AI would have been like really tough, especially with a one-person dev team. But my advice, like, use all the resources that are available to you. Don't spread yourself too thin, but like keep going.
Yeah. Man, I love that perspective. When you run into a wall, you try to climb that wall.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, you guys talk about the era we're in. It's like the gold rush of AI right now, right? It seems like everybody's rushing toward that. Everybody's trying to find the next big thing, write the better email, develop the better app. What are you guys doing right now to like set yourself apart and really leverage that advantage that you have between the two of you to make it the best that it can possibly be?
Yeah. I think like for us, before we think about like, hey, this is an AI tool, we think, hey, this is a sales tool. Like, hey, this is something we're building to help sales reps like save time from writing cold emails. And I think that's been probably our biggest driver is like, we're not just like a couple of people that came across AI and like, oh, maybe we can use AI for this. It's like, hey, I have this problem as a salesperson. I'm spending way too much time on these emails. And I'm like trying to figure out what we can do to make that better. And then AI comes along and it ends up being the solution that works. Right. And so I think our foundation is really strong. And I think that's why we've, been able to build something quickly and have some customers. I think the other thing that we're doing right now that's a little bit different is because I've used this and I use this in my day-to-day, we've built this to sit on top of your tech stack. So whether you're an Outreach, SalesLoft, whatever you're using for your emails and for your your Outreach platform, this will just sit on top of it like a Chrome extension, and it's really easy to use, right? One thing you can ask all salespeople is like, they don't necessarily want to add a new tool and start learning everything from scratch. It's, we already have a bunch of tools in our arsenal, like Outreach, Apollo, Gong, like we're already using all these things. And you don't necessarily want this whole new software, but using something that's just super easy, sits on top of your current stack and gives you that email with a click of a button, it just makes it really easy to use. I think that's where, we started, and that's probably where our biggest value add is. It's really easy to use, it's quick to set up, and it gets you a really good quality email within seconds. I think there's a lot of people out there trying to do a lot of different things, and we've just focused on this one piece to start, and I think we do that well.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I guess that's the other thing too. When you think about the bigger guys, the bigger players, right? They're not like, I would say they're not afraid, but they know they're going to incorporate AI into their tool somehow. They already have. The problem is that it's still, I still think, there's, like you just said, there's companies out there that may want the functionality to a certain degree, but they don't want the whole product, right? It's kind of like, it's like I know people who want Chorus, but they don't want Zoom Info, right? It's like, you don't have to have an all-in-one. I mean, Zach and I, we worked for a guy or a company that had built a tool, and so this is where I'm going with you. I love the simplicity of Mighty. I love like what you're saying is so on point. Like, you don't need a whole app, a whole thing, because you already have a whole bunch of other shit that you are struggling to work through every day. And here's just this little thing, this little Chrome extension that, is very simple, but gets you the end result that you're looking for is faster conscription of the email. The thing is, though, it's like, what do you like? Where do you go? Like why? Like I said, you don't need the whole thing of Zoom Info. If you just want Chorus, or if you want, like they have Engage, they have this, they want the whole thing. They want all of your business, And so I think sometimes when they do that, unless they buy another great product and incorporate it, and they try to incorporate it into their tool, somewhere some feature is going to get lost. Some feature is going to be not as good, right?
Yeah, like you can be great at everything, right? And so
yeah,
I think these like Zoom Info, Apollo, like they try to do a lot of things, but I think salespeople end up using it for their best feature, and then they use something else for. And I think that's the essence of, where we've started. I mean, I think we will build more tools and do more things for our customers, but it's going to be one at a time and making sure we're really good at it. And email is where we're starting.
That's awesome. Yeah, like you can like Celex, right? That became like what the problem there is. They were trying to do a similar thing, like really be very simple and strip away all the other unnecessary things that salespeople do or get distracted by. Hint, hint, distracted. And I think what happened where they went wrong is they were missing some core components, that because they were too simple, it was like, wait a minute, I need some of that stuff. Bring it back. I need some of that complexity, right? And so, but with email and content in the email, it can be as simple as what you guys have created. It's amazing. So Tej, did you come from a technical background? Like, were you a coder, or how does?
Yeah. So I worked at Amazon and Microsoft. So tech background, studied computer science at Waterloo back in Toronto. Yeah. I've always
so you lived in Toronto. That's how you guys know each other, and then you moved to where are you now?
I'm in Seattle.
Yeah. Awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I've never been to Seattle, although I don't know, you can't see it, but I do have a Pearl Jam poster on the wall back there. My wife I want to take her to Seattle really, really bad. She's a grunge, like she grew up in the grunge era. So.
Yeah, a lot of cool music festivals and stuff out here.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a museum there. It's like the whole wing is dedicated to like Pearl Jam and Eddie. She could spend like 2 days in there. I have to leave her at the museum. I'll come back later and get you.
Yeah,
we're gonna go hang out with Tej, and I would say I'd go hang out with Patrick Joyce, but he ain't even there no more. He lives in like North Carolina now. So cool, man. No, it's great. You guys have been friends since 2017.
Yeah. We met at the startup boot camp. It was like a little course where they were kind of teaching you how to, how to ideate, how to build an MVP, how to pitch investors. And I guess we both always wanted to do that. And then 5 years later came, finally had an idea that we were ready to work on.
There you go.
Right. And so before we see it though, like, I'm curious, are you guys, like, I know you said you'll do one at a time, but like, what is the next milestone for you guys? I mean, a user number base, like where are you at?
Yeah, I think it's just more customers. I think we want to get this out to more people, get their feedback, improve the product. I think that's probably the next thing. And then if I think one step further from that, I think prospecting is probably another area where sales reps could probably use help. Like if I think about my time on my day-to-day, I'm spending a lot of time on emails, not anymore. And now I spend a lot of my time prospecting and cold calling. So I think those are probably the next two areas. Prospecting, just helping you find more companies that fit your ICP, your ideal customer profile. So like, in our ideal world, the way we think of it is, give us a list of maybe 5-10 customers that you think are your ideal customers. And then we'll give you a list of hopefully hundreds, if not thousands, that match that criteria. So you don't have to, you spend even more time going through those. Like, I think even now, similar to email personalization, we're at the point where prospecting can be done. Like you can get lists of customers that somewhat match what you're looking for, but no one actually goes through each customer. You have to go through each customer and make sure it's a fit, right? And so I think AI can do that for you now. It's like the AI will go through each list, each customer, and then vet out the bad ones and give you a true list of prospect companies that you want to go after. So I think that's next, but first we want to scale the email side of things.
I definitely see that as an issue, right? like I'm having trouble with that right now. I'm trying to I like for example, you know, with respect to like a Zoom info, right? Zoom info will give you only so many filters, right? And unfortunately, I actually learned recently that there's some other toggles they added, so you could do like primary or all or whatever, so that because like you could put in like grocery retail industry, and I'm still getting media companies, I'm still getting all these other things, right? And so, but even if I refined it the way they say it can refine it, it still leaves this huge gap, right? And that's the gap that like, and I was just saying this to Zach earlier, like I used to work in a company that would provide me with leads, right? Based on our customers like ICP, broken down by those filters. We would give like the ops kid, I say kid, but ops guy, the filters, and he would run a list and he'd pull this and he'd just dump the whole list into my, you know, cadence. And so here I got loaded up. I think is great. I got 100 leads loaded up there. I think are great, awesome, you know, but there's a lot of them that aren't really ideal because those filters that these data sources use just aren't 100%. Or you have to like really start with this and then go to this and then move to context and then filter this and then do it a certain way so it ends up to right. And it takes so much time to do that, right? Because I currently do that by myself now. I don't have an ops person who does it. And when I think about it, I think, well, before he would give me this 100, but then I would waste a lot of time actually on the phone and maybe hitting the bad shit and having to weed through it on the fly. Today, what I'm doing is I only pull small portions and I spend my evening sometimes after my kid goes to sleep really vetting it out, like going to the website and making sure, like for example, I'm currently calling on HVAC contractors, right? But only residential ones. Guess what? LMR mechanical could be a commercial res contractor, but he also could be sometimes I used to say, oh, if it says mechanical, it's probably a commercial contractor. If it says heating and plumbing, it's residential. But I've actually gone through dozens and dozens and hundreds of leads and have identified that sometimes heating and plumbing could actually be commercial and LMR mechanical can be residential. And there's no way unless I actually go to their website and look at it and determine, you know, based on like what I'm reading there, whether or not they're commercial or residential. If I had AI to be able to scrape the list for me and do that, anybody listening can shoot me a message tomorrow, tell me there's something out there that does that. I will do that. There's some people who are talking about products like Clay and using GPT with Clay to be able to do that. I haven't seen it work perfectly.
Yeah.
I've actually played around with Clay a little bit. It's one of those systems where like you kind of have to fully invest in that and use that. Like you can't, you know, you kind of replaces your CRM and kind of replaces a lot of things, and it's a lot of technical stuff that you have to learn to be able to use that. It's a great tool. I think like if I was starting my sales stack from scratch, I would include that. But it's expensive. It takes some time to learn. So it's, you know, it's not something that you have an org of 25 people of sales reps. You're not just going to go all switch them all to Clay or train them on Clay. Like that's a lot harder to do than just like adding a tool like Mighty or anything else that's like an add-on to your existing capital stack.
So
I would add to that too, in terms of outbound, a tool like Clay being so complex and robust, you need to have somebody who's got kind of that foundation and like a true understanding of outbound and even the full sales cycle to really leverage something that massive effectively. It's not something you hand to, you know, the greenest SDR and say, go do this, you know.
Change is hard. You can't, you know, getting your sales team to adopt a new sales tool is hard enough. Getting them to adopt a technically challenging one or just a really robust one, that's just a really big undertaking for any sales team.
I don't think Clay is a product necessarily yet designed for, you know, junior level sales teams, you know, or SDR teams. It's something that like maybe the leader is using for a particular reason in order to help his team. But I don't think access to, people like you said, you got to be a bit more savvy, and you got to be a bit. Yeah. It's way too robust. But anybody can learn anything, right? I mean, but if you spend all your day and all of a sudden you have things like this should happen.
Mark, that's what you're doing with all your free time from not writing emails is making stuff like that. Come on.
That's exactly, man. There are so many videos, and anybody out there who wants to send us some things that they get distracted by in the middle of the day, that stop people from doing what they're doing, and then you can just sit there and watch that. By the way, that music was just playing in the background. That wasn't actually on the video, but it happened to fit a little bit, so I kind of let it go. But that was that was even crazier than that other one we played last week.
It is pretty crazy. And I do want to get into the demo, guys, because I'm excited to see the product. Before we do that, I do have one quick question, and I would like to understand your philosophy before we get into the tech side of things, your philosophy of what makes a good quality email.
That's a good question. I think there's two different schools of thought here. I think one is a trigger-based email. It's like, let's say I'm selling Mighty, selling a sales tool, and I notice that I find out that this company recently hired 5 BDRs, right, for outbound sales. I think that writes a really well trigger-based email. It's like, hey, I just noticed you expanded your BDR sales team. Looks like you're going hard on outbound sales. I'm curious, like, what kind of tech stack are you using? Have you considered using AI for your outbound sales? And then you kind of tie into the product and send an email that way. I think those trigger-based emails are usually the best gold case, because it's like, hey, I've done specific research about your company. I noticed something that directly ties into what I'm selling. And, you do a quick, 1-2 liner pitch of what we do and see if they're interested in next steps, right? Or interested in learning more about it. I think that's probably like what I'd see as like, okay, that's probably the best case. Now there's not always a trigger. So that's like, obviously, like, it'd be great if that company had hired 5 PDRs, but there's not always the case that there's a specific trigger that ties into your product. So I think the next best is like just finding some sort of relevant information, starting your email off with that personalized relevant information, the first couple of lines, making sure that ideally it's tied to what you're selling, but just to get them to open the email and read it. I think standing out of the noise is probably the hardest thing when it comes to email. Either the person's going to read it, or it's auto delete, or or it's going to go to spam. Like, getting their attention is the hardest part. So make sure you're creative and do something that catches their attention. Really short and precise pitch, and then asking to see if they're interested. Short email to the point. I think that's your best bet. But email alone, I don't think will ever work for outbound as a sole tool. It has to be tied with social selling, it has to be tied with cold calling, it has to be tied with good prospecting. Like, there's so many things you have to do to convert a prospect. Email is just one part of it. And within that, there's different, qualities and levels of emails. But that's kind of how we think about it. And the last thing I is, like, in our case, it's not that our emails are probably better than what you write on a normal day. Like, they're good quality emails, but it's not that they're the best 1% of emails. It's like, we're just saving you the time to write a good email, and now you can do the other things that help you convert.
And you're
because good emails are personalized email. There's kind of table stakes now. It's like everyone kind of has to do a good email, personalized emails. If you don't have a personalized email, you're already out of the game. You're not even in the running. And so personalized emails is table stakes. And then, we're just making that easy for you so that you can now do other things to help convert the prospect.
Yeah, I will say this though. There are, well, let me ask you this. You talked about where you are as far as what you guys believe makes a good email or what you need to do in order to impress on the email. What makes a bad email? A bad personalized email?
Oh, okay, so if it's personalized, I think sometimes people go too long. It's like no one's really going to read, like a really long essay that you're going to write. They still keep it super professional, like, hey, hope all is well, blah blah blah, and like a really long ending to the email. I think those things, just cut the crap and get to the point. Like, the person gets literally hundreds of emails and they're not going to read your fluff, even if it's personalized. So I think keeping it short is probably the best thing you can do. And then lastly, I think, what about, like, if you just spend 2 paragraphs talking about what you do and what you sell, that is also likely not going to.
Yeah, I know that definitely there's this other kind of taboo things, but I was just thinking about it in terms of like, so for example, without using your tool, I would go into a LinkedIn profile, and my customization, for example, would be something like, I'll even pull it up so I can think about it here properly. Hey, I'd say like John, right? Put the first name in there. John, noticed you've been running whatever company for 15 years now. Getting the business to 23 employees and over 200 Google reviews is impressive. And then the rest is relevant to his persona and his company. That would be the only thing I personalize, because that takes me like 20 seconds to see off of their website or their LinkedIn profile, and then the Google review thing is just a Google search on their company. So not huge customization. It's not like, oh, I saw an article like blah 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 and I read, because I've been using the Mighty tool, and it's given me a lot of that stuff. Like, there was a guy, what I thought was really cool and it really helped me buy into it a lot, even the last few days, was there was one guy I pulled an email from, and there was nothing on his LinkedIn page. And I was like, where the freak did you come up with this stuff? And the only thing I didn't like about it is it tried to add a little extra stuff at the end that just was unnecessary. But again, I'm not going to necessarily just click send on that.
Exactly.
I'm going to clean it up a little bit, but that's okay. It still gave me words that I would never have probably been able to formulate in 15 seconds.
Well, I'm pumped to see it. So let's jump in and take a look and see how we can make our sales mighty.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've got my screen ready if you guys want to pull it up. Here we go. Okay, cool. I just got Google in the background here because it's a Chrome extension, but you'll see Mighty on the bottom right here. The little purple M, as Mark alluded to earlier. Once you open it up, you've got 3 different tabs: email tab, train, and settings. Email is where the magic happens. You enter the company name, recipient, optional to put their LinkedIn. We'll find it typically, but if you want to provide it to us, you can do that. Settings tab is where you'll enter your information. So let's say I'm Prab, I work for Clearco. I'll set 120 as the word limit. And in train, I've already done this, but basically this is where you train Mighty on your emails. So I've marked a few emails on my Gmail that I wanted Mighty to learn from. So it learns my writing style, right? And that's typically like personalization, quick pitch, ask for interest, roughly, is what it looks like. So I've done that here, and you can do that if you have Gmail. And so once you have that ready, the settings and train tab, you can just go in. I'll put in a company, say Parachute Home. They're a e-commerce business. They sell furniture and mattresses and stuff. So you put in the information, you click go, and basically what Mighty does is it'll research Parachute Home, the business. It'll research Jeff Parker. He's the CFO there. it'll also research your company, so Clearco, what you're selling, and using all the information in about 30 seconds or so, it'll draft an email that you can send out. This particular email will be closer to my writing style because I have trained Mighty on it.
So you didn't even put in the LinkedIn URL.
No, that's an optional thing. So we'll typically find it. You may want to put that in if it's like a URL that's maybe easy to miss, or it's just something that if you, let's say there's a lot of people with that same name.
Yeah. At the same company.
Congratulations on your new role at Parachute Home and the recent store expansion. Turning 12 stores to 27 in such a brief time is quite an achievement. I'm Prob from Clearco. We've helped 7,000 businesses across various sectors and seen them grow exponentially. Brands like the Sill and Avocado Green have accessed better invoice terms, leveraged our funding to fuel their growth. See, I like that. Given Parachute Home, see, this is where it starts to get a little long, but given Parachute Home's drive to make a mark in physical retail and betting sector, I believe we could be a perfect fit. Jeff, are you keen to explore how Clearco can partner with you, adding Parachute and filling the void left by major players? Man, what's interesting here is like it's not even using your call to action. You're just asking a question. I was going to ask you that earlier. Like I've been doing a lot of that lately, instead of like asking them to, if they are interested in talking again, or a 15-minute call or short call, are you interested in exploring? I'll say something like, are you interested in learning more, which could imply a call, but sometimes I'll just ask a question. Like one of the things I've been really focused on recently is trying to get myself in a cold call to ask them, is this good for the business? So like I've been finishing even some of my emails like that, like, would this be good for the business? And I you know what I'm thinking? And I've gotten a lot of opens, and I even got some replies, but I'm thinking that people don't know what to do with that. Like they literally just don't know that I just want an answer. I want their opinion. Just fucking write me an email back with your opinion, right? Like they don't know what to do with it. They're expecting you to say, do you want to call, or do you want to book a time, or see the Calendly link at the bottom or something, you know? I feel like, cause it's like, no matter what you say in these things, you always got to keep in mind with email, no matter even how short or long it is, they don't see everything or read everything.
Yeah.
Right. So you can even make mistakes. Like we had an AI tool running that actually helped us land a deal. The guy came inbound, booked a meeting off an AI generated email that was wrong. Yeah. Like it was written wrong. Like it was saying, it was like, it referred to Carrot, like our business, as like we were the prospect for some reason, like in the verbiage at the bottom. But the guy still was like, I'm interested in talking to you, blah, 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 you know, and we wound up closing a deal with him. Like it, and on an email that was generated by AI that wasn't even correct.
Yeah.
I mean, it's amazing.
I noticed that also popped in a PS at the end there.
Yeah, it does that. I tend to do that in my emails. You can't see it fully, but if you copy it, you can. Props to the carbon-free neutral shipping initiative. Definitely a step worth applauding.
Okay. So
and you can make the email like, I have it 120 words, but you can make it like shorter, right? So if you want to go 80 words, it'll keep it short. You can kind of set that up. I think a lot of people prefer shorter, but it's totally up to you though to kind of play around with it a little bit.
We were playing around with this last night a little bit. Mark was showing me some of the things it was spitting out, and the biggest takeaway, and I see it again here, is it doesn't really feel mechanical, right? Like a lot of the chat GPT driven stuff just feels like it feels computery, right? For lack of a better term. And you've kind of captured more of the human voice in these emails. Like structure aside, whatever, like we can debate like what's good and what's not, you know, as far as structure goes, but like it just doesn't feel fake, you know?
Yeah.
Awesome.
No, it sounds and like the way it talks is definitely cool. I have some questions about, like, and I don't know if this is just maybe ideas or future iterations though. The thing about it is, first and foremost, like, why did you guys? I mean, I know you said you wanted to keep it simple, but the box is kind of small. You know, did you guys ever consider like a blowout?
This box?
So like you go from here to get a little bit bigger. so that as I could see, so I could see the email like in full, like you said, like it was blocked. You know what I mean?
So
Like, is that?
So that's something we asked around about before designing it. Felt like it was a good size at the time, but obviously we plan to add features. So usually when you download a Chrome extension, you see an icon in your address bar. So we plan to add some features on customizing the size of that and also the position of the icon.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was gonna say. Like, I can't move it now, and it kind of blocks. Like in sales, it sits in front of something that I don't necessarily need to see, but it's kind of annoying sometimes.
Yeah.
And I can't see it, so it kind of blocks that. So if just give people the capability of actually being able to like right click and move it wherever they want on the page, just like I can do with other Chrome extensions, or at least give me the ability to move it up and down the sidebar here. Would be ideal.
That's something we're gonna add soon.
Cool, man.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
awesome.
the nice thing is, like, with the Chrome extension, just because we want it to be, again, sit on top of your current tools and not,
not blow up and hide hide your old
Yeah.
page, right? In case you
So,
are
like,
using Gmail or Outreach, whatever, on that out of bounds area on your main page.
I think the other. Go ahead, John. I mean,
no, I know we've got a limited time here to kind of pack everything in, but in terms of training it, you kind of scratched the surface on that a little bit, but you mentioned that this is emulating your writing style, Prob. So can you go into a little bit of how that works? And like, I mean, do you have to have a certain number of emails already written that this thing can look at? Like, how do you get started?
Yeah, it's actually super simple. Like, I have it set up so it won't show the instructions, but if you don't have it set up, it'll tell you what you need to do. You basically label, maybe 5 to 8 emails on your Gmail as Mighty, and sign in with Google here on Mighty, and it will pick up those 5 emails and kind of take that information and use that writing style and mirror it, essentially. Like, we've instructed it to mirror the writing style of those 5 to 8 emails. So it doesn't take a lot, but yeah, like, typically, I've given it 5 emails that I've used, that I've written net new emails, like the first email, and it's learned from those, like the PS thing it picked up from that. If you didn't have it trained, it probably wouldn't have done a PS. But that's something it picked up from my writing style. So it's super simple. It takes a couple of minutes to do that, to label, those 5 emails or so, and spit that into this. And then right away, you should see the results on the emails being closer. Like, it's not perfect, but it'll be a lot closer to where you're used to writing, both from a format, writing style, things that you touch on, your pitch, the way you pitch your business, all those things.
If I put in, how I've told you this before, like, I have different companies I work for, right? So if I train it on, let's say, 4 or 5 emails from whatever company, it doesn't really matter, right? I train it, but like you said, it's really more merely learning like the rhythm of the way I speak and the kinds of words I use, or maybe the framework in which I write it, like you said, where the call to action is versus the hello, how are you, whatever it is, right? Could I then just as easily change the company I work for in the settings, and it will apply? If I just put something different in it, will it apply the same
style?
Yep.
Yeah, so it'll do that. It's not gonna learn exactly what you're selling from the emails. It'll just learn your writing style, like format, length, and tone, things like that. And then
that's what I mean.
Yeah, and then when you update the company in your settings page, we're gonna research that company the same way we research the prospect company. Or we have a feature where you can disable that and input details on your company as well as the product or service you're selling manually. But if you have that feature enabled, we're going to search it the same way we search the prospect and apply that same style that you've trained on to sell whatever this new company you're at now is selling.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I thought was a little like I'll have to like it. I like the idea if I could just teach it like without necessarily going into email, like about my company. I've seen that on another tool where you kind of like, I think Reggie does that, right? Where you just like, you have to give it information. You have to give it the value prop. You have to tell it what the value prop is. Because I've noticed a couple of things with Mighty that, like, I was using it for one of the companies I'm working for called the Vant Group, right? They're an investment banking firm. And it created an email and some verbiage in the email that was so like, I don't know where they got it from, like where it got it from. Like it wasn't, not that it was completely off base, but it was just like, that's kind of not, like I think what it was trying to do was take what that prospect does and what they do in their company and try to give some relate it. Like, oh, we think you're doing this. That's great. We value that because we do something similar, right? And it tried to cross it over, and it was like, nah, that's not what this that's not what this company does. Like, and so
I'm glad you brought that up, Mark. Like we actually, you notice like some companies, like, you know, it will do a good job of researching and getting a sense of what they sell. But sometimes, you know, maybe they sell a lot of things, and it's like hard for, like, if someone just looked at that company, they may not know exactly what they're selling. But we added this feature where like you can turn off company search. So that's where it searches your company, and you can actually manually input like what you offer.
Okay.
And that's something we added recently, actually, after Mark, that you started using this. So you can kind of give it those details so it doesn't have to learn it itself.
Yeah, especially good for less established companies that, you know, information won't be publicly accessible on the internet.
That's awesome.
Oh, cool.
I love that.
Is that not in the version I have? Oh wait, no, it is. I see it. Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, that would be awesome. You know, I know we got to wrap it up, but I was going to mention one other thing because you were talking about like future things. I was thinking like, you know, when I go into a prospect and like I'm trying to formulate an email, like customize an email, like I go to their I go to their LinkedIn page, I go to their website, and I'm thinking about certain things, right, based on what I sell. From that 35 to 55 second bit of research, right, I'm not only crafting the email, but I'm also thinking about what I'm going to actually say to that person when I call them. I think something that could be helpful to salespeople would be the generating what you would actually say to them, like almost generating a talk track, generating
like
a pitch.
Notes on like, hey, this is this company, like here's what you need to know before a demo. That would be actually kind of cool. Sometimes I've had people like the Mighty will find something and they'll be like, oh, that's actually interesting, and they'll bring it up, you know, on a cold call or on the actual demo because it found something that is actually relevant. And sometimes it does that, not always. But yeah, I think it would be cool for you to get like a summary of things you need to know before speaking to this business.
Yeah, or talk points, you know, like talking points that you derive that like, so like the AI, what it'll do is it'll generate the email and then it'll extract talking points that you can use when you call that person, right? Because generally the email, the call, the LinkedIn connection request, it's all going to come within, you know, 95 seconds or a minute and a half or whatever it is, which is 95 seconds. You know, and so I feel like, you know, doing that research, if you had a tool that also spit out like the talk track and the email at the same time, would be actually pretty cool. Or even if it was separate, like a separate tool, but maybe it's oriented towards the conversation intelligence you need. And when I say conversation intelligence, I'm not talking about intelligence about the conversation like chorus and gong, but having intelligence to use during the conversation. We all talk about conversation intelligence after the fact. What about before you go into the call?
There's one other thing I want to add to that, and I think it's a testament to the way you guys think about you know, sales as a whole and the functionality for people having been in the outbound role. I love that this isn't married to another product, right? Like it doesn't have to live within Gmail. It doesn't have to live within Outlook, whatever. Like you can use this anywhere, craft the email, then drop it into whatever system you're using. And I think people underestimate how nice that flexibility is.
Yeah, like I think like the actual market share of like outreach sales off is not that crazy. It's not that high. Like people do use a bunch of different tools, and so it just didn't make sense to get married to one system because it's like there really isn't one system that's universal. You know, everyone knows of, you know, like the top 2-3, but there certainly isn't one that has like 80-90% market share for which it would make sense to tie into it.
Yeah.
Or you can even use it when you're distracted with some videos you're watching online.
Cool. Well, guys, I know we're getting up on time here. Super cool tool. This is something I'm definitely going to incorporate into my day to day, especially since I don't use a lot of the well-known tools, in my outbound right now. So it's cool to have that flexibility. Any final thoughts, guys?
Dash?
No, thanks for having us. Let's stay in touch. Let us know if you want to subscribe to the product, and stay tuned for more updates.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think
No, we definitely are. I'm definitely gonna continue to follow you guys and follow your path here. And if you want to brainstorm about other things like that, like things that could possibly be tools, Zach and I always love to shoot the shit about that stuff. And who knows, man? Maybe we could help you build your next tool.
100%.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we're excited about how AI is going to change the game for salespeople, and I think this is just a start. I think there's a lot more to come. I think there's going to be a lot of tools. I think some will win, some will, just be there. But I think I think our focus on email is probably like my favorite part about this is like, hey, like we're doing this one thing well, and we want to focus on that. So hopefully, no one has to spend 20 minutes writing a cold email. And I have met people that spend 20 minutes writing that first email.
Yeah, and I think it's a product of like the industry is just, there's going to be so many of these onesie twosies coming out, and they're not going to have that foundation. They're going to iterate past it. They're going to sell it. You know what I mean? And I think you could take your time and you could build it right, and you get the feedback, and you continue to grow it and change it, and adapt it, and it'll just stay with your foundations of what you know how to do best, and work it. And so, yeah, man, I'm excited for you guys. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having us.
Right on.
Cheers.
Awesome.
All right. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Refer In is our next
Refer
guest.
In. Yeah, that's interesting product too. Yeah. Did you have a hard stop too?
No, I didn't. But man, I really I'm amazed by that, the simplicity, but
yeah,
also the content that it puts out is very impressive. I mean, a lot of these email generation tools tend to have the same kind of feel to them, and to me, that one's just a lot different. So it's super cool.
Yeah, I would say that. I'd say it's definitely different than like your Reggie or your Lavender or anything like that. Although it's purple like Lavender, but I feel like at first I was almost like, oh, this is like so simple. And then I'm like, there's got to be more to it, but it doesn't. And I think they made that point. They drove that point home tonight, which is like you've got all these other tools. Nobody wants another tool or another thing to support a full blown, like this is not taking up a lot of bandwidth, a lot of RAM, like another app, like a Salesloft or a Salesforce.
Yeah.
Or a Zoom Info. It's a Chrome extension. It's not even like literally, it's essentially not even on your computer. It's not living on your computer. You're like accessing it remotely. Is essentially what a Chrome extension is, right? Like it's not, the full app isn't on your system, right? You're just kind of accessing it through a portal almost, and that's what that is. And it's kind of neat. It is kind of neat like that. And maybe it doesn't need to blow out or get bigger, like size wise. Like they made that was a good rebuttal. Right, to that, I didn't really think it was an objection, but I was just making a suggestion, and they said, "Well, we wanted to say so also doesn't overlap your other apps." And I was like, well, shit, that makes sense, because I hate that when it does that to other apps do that to other stuff on your computer. And so I'm like, wow, I didn't think about it. And they've thought about a lot of stuff, and I think that's the key. It's just about thinking ahead, trying to think as far ahead as you possibly can, and then getting it out there, getting that MVP out there, and being able to test it and iterate it.
Yeah, get some good feedback and get some good data to make decisions on. That's Super cool. That there was one other thing with that, and we didn't really get into it at all. But I'm curious how it kind of handles the subsequent emails, right? The follow ups and that sort of thing. Once you send that initial cold outreach, how does it adapt? Does it feed off of the previous conversations? And I guess time will tell as I kind of get in there and play around with it a bit, but.
Yeah, I don't think it's doing that. It's definitely not handling the entire journey. It's not handling the conversation. You would still have to, you'd have to manually do the second one and third one. It's only opening up initial emails unless you instruct it. I guess if you start to give it other information, like he just told me, like you could toggle off that thing and start adding your own data. Only then I think maybe it would have the capability of sending a second or a third email. But it's not reading emails. It's just writing it off of the data. It's extracting from the internet.
Right.
So it ain't doing that yet. But there are tools that do that. Calendar.ai does that. There's, I think there's a module in this product called Propensity that we're using that does that. So there are tools out there that actually have the capability of, let's say, call it holding the conversation. Or for that matter, there's still quite a bit of room left in the world for apps like that to be able to do that. I think, again, that's moving towards the idea of you're just like setting it and forgetting it and letting it run until it either denies or accepts your invite to meet.
Well, and it was actually relieving to hear too that that's not even their philosophy. They're not trying to replace the salesperson. It's truly a tool built to augment and reduce your workload, right?
Right.
But then, as Prab said, like email and phone calls and social channels are still part of the plan, right? Like you still got to have actual conversations with people. Email is just one tool in the toolbox. And I think there seems to be a wider trend of, well, let's replace email altogether and have everything automated and we'll pull leads and send the emails and do all we're still keeping the human element involved, which I think is really cool. And it's a little bit different take than some of the other, trends and thought leaders that we're seeing out there in the market right now. So,
Most definitely. I think that there is this, and that the idea that these other tools are actually trying to do it all or do the whole chunk of those tasks so that you don't have to do it all just caters to this, painting this doom and gloom picture for the SDR. Or, there's this one side of the fence, people say, well, it's not like it's dead. It's just changing. Right. And then you're just trying to grab headlines with the doom and gloom comments, you know what I mean? And is the algorithm really catering to that and giving them more, giving those posts more visibility? Or is it just because those people have 30,000 viewers that they seem to have a lot of impressions, or 15,000, connections? So they're or followers, so they're getting huge engagement on it or whatever. And it's just like, well, aren't people sick of talking about the same shit? Why not talk about solutions? All we're doing is saying it's changing or it's dead, it's this. And we're saying everything is going AI, everything, the salesperson is, being eliminated. It's such crap. It's just crap. It's just people wanting, it's those people who are talking about it like that want you to think about that like that so that you hire them or you buy their AI product. You don't hear us do. I mean, we're trying to figure out how do we keep salespeople alive? How do we get them better on the phone, have better conversations? This used to be, it's so funny, like not too long ago, it was about elevating the sales profession, right? It was about giving better phone. I wrote this post where I was going to present to the public our idea of doing like not a cohort, but a group of guys that or a group of people who want to just share cold calls for an hour in the middle of the week. And in that post, I wrote that. comment.
Yeah.
That I just said, which I forgot. What did I say?
Give better phone.
Give better phone, right? Give better phone. I said Jack and I came up with the idea that we want to help people give better phone, and that's what it was. It was about that. It was about elevating the profession. It was about not spamming, not using the automation tools and actually doing quality over quantity. And yet people still want to talk about eliminating or changing the sales rep or eliminating that level of sales rep because you can automate all that. Can't automate a conversation, man. Oh, you can. There are these videos out there that have these AI chatbot things that sound real. Interactions or whatever, Scott Leese put out that one thing. But I mean, is that mainstream? Is that affordable?
No, you can do it, and it can be very synthetic feeling right now, right? I mean, you look at major corporations like I don't know. I think Comcast is one of them, and I'm sure I don't know. There's dozens of them now doing that, where you call in, and instead of having an actual human that you talk with, it's an AI that guides you through, and it fills in all the keystrokes, like they're looking up your information and all that. Like people see right through it. They feel it.
But they're okay with it, I think, though, bro. That's the problem. That's the change, is that some of them are okay with it. That guy in that video with Scott was just enthralled with the fact that it was Scott Lee's voice, right?
And it was cool.
But that was fake, right? But to your point, like, and I've seen this like with interactions where you call in, it was AT&T or whatever, some utility, and like you call in and it handles you like it's human. It sounds human. You could definitely tell it's not, but like, it's answering your question. It's not like it doesn't have its own agenda.
Yeah.
You're guiding the conversation and it's following along. It of course has different tasks it needs to accomplish to, and it does that stuff in the, so it sounds like it's thinking and it's typing, but it's really not. But that's cool. That's really cool. And people, but from like if you got a cold call of that, I don't think there's many. Maybe the person would be very intrigued because it does sound real, but I think they're spending the first 5 to 15 seconds trying to figure out if it is real, and then once they realize that it's not, they're either still intrigued by it and will continue if it's relevant. Otherwise, they're like, "This is ridiculous," right?
Yeah,
and they hang up.
And I think at some point in the future that'll be a thing, right? That will be the reality at some point, and that's going to be a widespread thing. And this is a topic, I guess, that we could go deep on another episode, and talk more about. But I think then you start arriving into the ethics issues of that, right? And the wormholes that come along with it. And in the near term, I don't see the phone disappearing as a good channel. And it's cool to see, tools that are being put out in the AI space that aren't designed to replace the rep, but just make them more effective. And that's what it's all about to me. And that's how we do continue to elevate the sales profession, the outbound profession, and make it better. But that was a cool show, man. I'm looking forward to next week as well, when we bring on Refer In and learn some more cool tech stuff. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
Oh yeah, no, I mean, good show. Great to bring those guys on. We got to do a little bit more homework and get some more guests going into the new year. But yeah, no, that was great. I guess we won't do the cold call breakdown tonight, but I do have one queued up. But yeah, no, good show. Appreciate you hosting it with me, man.
Yeah, man.
All right, let's.
Until next time.
Well, and for all you guys out there, check us out in a couple of weeks where we bring back Refer In, as Zach said, and we look forward to seeing y'all. Peace.